What's up, everybody? Welcome to our weekly live podcast, Mosh Racing Live, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Mike Wiehl. I run this little shindig. Tonight's episode is going to be sponsored by Wildflower Rye. Everything disconnected there for a second. We're still going. We're in the middle of a storm, so if we lose anything, that's my apologies. We're riding out the weather. With us, we have our guest speaker tonight, Mr. On the Go with CeeLo, once again joining us to talk all things NASCAR. What's happening, man? It is. Yeah. All three series running this week. We'll have the Craftsman Truck Series back on Friday night in Las Vegas, followed by the Xfinity Series Saturday, Cup Series on Sunday. Looking forward to it. We got quite a few things to cover tonight. We'll talk about kind of how Fontana ended up. We'll talk a little bit. There's been a couple little news stories this week that's come out. We'll look at what's going to happen this coming week in Las Vegas and try to make our picks on what we think is going to happen. So we'll start. I'm going to jump right into some of the news that's come out this week. Just a couple things. The most biggest one being the rules change that's coming starting in Phoenix to the Cup cars. They have basically made it where there's going to be 30% less downforce with a shorter spoiler. They've made some changes to the rear end diffuser. Underneath the car, a couple changes. Going to be interesting to see. That's going to start at Phoenix. They're going to run that at all the short tracks. That'll be Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, and I believe all the road courses with the rain package on the cars for all those races. So a little curious to see how that's going to go. The whole goal here ultimately is to obviously make these cars. You went to the race in Bristol last year. You saw how kind of single file it was. Not a lot of opportunity for passing, things like that. So I think the goal is to loosen these cars up a little bit, make them a little more. You're going to have to drive them. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I mean, the whole thing has really been focused on, like, not necessarily racing in the rain, but on damp racetracks. Kind of like they did at Watkins Glen last year, where they got the track contained enough that they could at least run. I think that was kind of the goal. They want to get back to that point where you can get back out on a damp Martinsville and continue to race, but I don't think you're going to see them racing in like a hard downpour. That's not really the goal, but curious to see. I think I did. Yeah, I keep dropping in and out a little bit here. Yeah, me too. But internet doesn't always like to play along. But yeah, so other thing that came out this week I thought was kind of cool. It's not really NASCAR related, but definitely iRacing related. The Cars Tour, late model stock car series, is coming to iRacing in the Season 2 build, which I'm super excited about because I love racing late models in iRacing. It's pretty fun. I'm looking forward to that going live. Dale Jr.'s been gloating about that and posting it everywhere, although he's part owner in iRacing. He's part owner in the Cars Tour. And they're using his cars to model for the series, so that'll be cool. Yeah, that was the Cars Tour virtual North Wilkesboro that he was racing at. That wasn't a real video. Yeah, that was to announce the Cars Tour coming into iRacing. Look at that. It's so realistic it fooled you. Yeah. But pretty cool. I think so there is, I mean, right now there's a late model stock car, and then they've got super late models in iRacing. I like to run the late models, but there's just never any offerings. There's not enough races for them. So now that the Cars Tour will actually be there, it'll be a little more opportunity to run them, which, I like running the Cup card, but if I like to run a few different things too. So if they actually have like a decent late model series running at the tracks that they run at, like Southern National, North Wilkesboro, South Boston, Hickory, that'll be fun. So, and all of that's in iRacing now. So, looking pretty forward to that. Look at that, Joe Bags is in the chat. That's awesome. Our Daytona buddy. Oh, nice. Yeah, imagine that. Isn't he running the Xfinity Series race too? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. It's been a little while. Yeah. I don't know if you saw Las Vegas Motor Speedway posted a picture of a broom up against the wall and said, "We got this ready for you, Rowdy." So, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was a little surprised at the end of that race how quickly it there wasn't the booze. Like all of a sudden, people are Kyle Busch fans now. It's like you hated him for years, and then he switches teams, and it's like, oh, he's so underprivileged, and we nobody appreciate. It's like, really, really, yeah, yeah. Man, whatever. I mean, I think he's. Denny Hamlin said on his podcast this week he is easily moving into the top 5 of greatest drivers of all time. I mean, easily. Yeah. That's true. Facts. Yeah. So we'll move into exactly that topic. Final weekend at Auto Club Speedway, allegedly. Um, Supposed to be turning it into a short track. We'll see what actually happens with that. The Cup race was supposed to be the last race there. Wound up being the next to last race because the Xfinity race got pushed to Sunday night for snow. It snowed a ton in Fontana, California, which is just the weirdest thing to say. Um, but I thought kind of an interesting race. Of course, Kyle Busch comes away with the win there, which was kind of I wasn't surprised by that at all. I thought it wasn't going to take long for him to show up and start winning races. But I guess I just thought maybe it'd take him a few more weeks to get there. I don't know. Yep. Yeah. That John Denver's full of shit, man. Yep. Yeah. Well, Corey LaJoie managed to finish 14th, so he obviously didn't have that bad of a day. Yeah. Yeah. Now, one interesting thing that happened was Martin Truex Jr. got the first lost wheel penalty of the season. Lost a wheel coming off pit road onto the backstretch. Tire came off. which is now not a 4-race suspension for the crew chief anymore. It is a 2-lap penalty in the race if it happens on track. And then 2 of their crew members are suspended for 2 weeks after the fact. But even with that, he wound up going 2 laps down, came back, got back in the lead lap, and finished 11th. So, yeah. Yeah. Ross Chastain led the most laps at 91. 28 lead changes, actually, among 13 different leaders. So, pretty competitive race for an Auto Club California. Usually you get 5 or 6, and it's, there's some battles there on the restarts, but you get kind of cream rises there. So it was a little interesting to see how that panned out. Obviously, Kyle Busch wins. His third team he wins with. I believe that was his 5th win at that racetrack. 61st career win. Sold out Auto Club, though. Every seat was sold. 2 weeks in a row, we had a sellout. That's the second, I believe, third year in a row since COVID. They've had that place sell out. So it sucks to see it go. I like that racetrack. I used to go to races there. I enjoy that place. It's going to be weird to see it gone, I think. I'll be honest, I don't think the short track's ever going to happen. They announced this week, as they were prepping for this race, that they struck a deal to sell 80% of that property that racetrack sits on now for $544 million. I don't know that this short track ever really comes to fruition. I, so the story that Jordan Bianchi posted this week was that they were going to lease the parking spaces from the warehouse companies, whatever, that bought up this land for the weekend race events. But I don't know, man. I'm a skeptic. I have a hard time believing that race comes back. I have a feeling that you sold 80% of the land. There's a lot more money in that other 20%. That may be the end of it. Now, what I don't want to see happen is that we go run the Coliseum as a points race because we have to be in LA. That's not the answer. Yeah, that's not what needs to happen. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much pull the RTA has in that to dictate the schedule, but I think that the viewership was as far as TV numbers, it was pretty good for the Clash, but as far as attendees, it was down from the first year. There doesn't. Well, yeah, there's no way. I mean, it would be the same. It'd have to be the same thing. You'd have to do it in heats. You can't do live pit stops at that racetrack. It's not built for it. There's no way to do that. You can't have 40 cars on that racetrack. It would be a shit show. So that's not the answer. I don't think putting it at the Clash or the Coliseum, turning that into a racetrack for a points event is just, oh, what a mess. That would be horrible. Yeah, 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 and it's kind of not. It's hit and miss. I mean, remember that last Super Bowl they had in Dallas? It snowed and there was ice everywhere, and it was a total mess. So, and that was supposed to be in warm weather environments for. So, I mean, I don't know. There's not another racetrack out there that they're going to run at. I mean, I think you'll keep the Vegas, Phoenix, West Coast swing together. I don't think you can go to Fontana this early in the season as part of that, or I mean Sonoma, not Fontana, just because it's I mean it's like monsoon season in Northern California. It rains a lot. The track's not really conditioned for it. I mean I don't know. I don't know what you do. I just know that if you try to host it at the Coliseum, that there's going to be outrage. Oh yeah, fourth, third, and fourth. third and fourth, led the most laps, Ross Chastain. So, yeah. I think if you're not taking them seriously at this point, you need to. A couple other mentionables. I think Brad Keselowski, even though he turned around there at one point, he still finished seventh. Denny was sixth. Austin Dillon, ninth. That's interesting to see. Both RCR cars have had 2 good weeks. Although Daytona didn't end very well, they were there. They were running. So I think, yeah, in the not in the playoff points, yeah, Chastain leads the points right now. Yeah, yeah, fifth in. Let's see, he was fifth here. Um, I don't. Yeah, I think he was top 5 at Daytona. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but either way, yeah. He's shown up. I think probably the worst end for last weekend. AJ Allmendinger was out after only 75 laps. He finished dead last. Kyle Larson wound up clawing back up to 29th, but was 15 laps down at the end of the race after electrical issues. So I think you see those guys kind of they'll show up though. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That whole stack up on the outside line coming to that restart that caused that big wreck. I mean, it was, and it started with Logano. It started at the front row, and I don't know if it was just Logano playing games to time the restart right or what happened, but it just accordion that whole line, and before you know it, dudes are just plowing into the back of the other cars, and it made a mess. Yeah, he took some hits there. He definitely did. So yes, yeah. If you look at the penalty report for the week, um, hang on, let me pull it up. Yeah, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 15, almost 25 speeding penalties. Or, I'm sorry, only a few speeding penalties, but a lot of pitting before the pits were open penalties. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3 speeding on pit road penalties, but a lot of pitting before it was open to the end of the line penalties. So, yeah, kind of interesting. I don't know. Kyle was right there before that pit stop. He dictated what time when they came to pit road, uh, and beat Chastain off pit road. Yeah, I think it didn't matter. Whoever, whenever one of them came, the other one was going to come. And if they had waited too long, they would have given up too much time to cars on fresh tires. So they had to pit. They knew what they were doing, splitting that last 60 lap run. No, it was not. Yeah, there was no way. You knew he was. I mean, he was losing 3 seconds a lap to the leaders when he stayed out. Like it was. There was no way. There was way too many laps left. Uh, no, no. He wound up pitting, and he lost. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. I'll pull it back up because I just closed the results here. But McDowell was. Here we go. Michael McDowell wound up 18th. Yep. Led 6 laps, but yeah, it was. Um, no, I think I think there's a couple sleepers in there. Uh, Bowman, 2 top 10s so far. I think he's got he's not doing horrible. Um, I think Keselowski is a little bit after they were strong at Daytona. They ran well here. He's going into a track that he's got some wins at Las Vegas. So I said, back before the start of the season, Keselowski was my sleeper to make the playoffs. I think he's in. He's got a win coming, whether it's a plate track or some of these tracks. That team, RFK Racing, has to improve. They were just not good. Even though Chris Buescher won Bristol last year, they have to improve. And if they don't, yeah, man, that's just going to be bad. Yeah, he was 13th in the finish at Auto Club, but yeah, I think that's where there's some things that need to happen there. Gotcha. Well, if he finished in the top 5, he finished in the top 10. Man. So yeah, other side of that, the iRacing Auto Club race. Man, I hate racing. I will say, if I had not gotten into the pissing match I did with one car through the first 40 laps of that race, I yeah, oh man, I wouldn't recommend it. Don't better not show your kids. It is not PG, not suitable for work, man. I was on the I was hot. I had one car that, I mean, he wrecked me twice in one lap, and then turned me again coming to a green, caused me to get penalized, and I wound up going a lap down. And oh, I was angry. If I were a cartoon, I'd have the smoke coming out of my ears and everything. But um, yeah, I managed to get some things to go the right way. Cautious fell at the right time. Tires worked just right at the way I was able to pit, and the cycles worked out, and rallied back to finish ninth. So I was actually pretty excited for that finish. I ran the MyPilotPro car, obviously one of my title sponsors. So put that on the car this week, and to have a good showing there, where that was actually getting some airplay, was fun. So it got a little hectic there at the end, but I was happy to come away with the top 10. So right now in my division and club, I am fourth in points going into Las Vegas this week. 41st in the division overall, but obviously that's very early, and having gotten wrecked out in Daytona, that made it a little difficult. Actually, had a couple guys I raced with at Daytona. Some of my drafting buddies there were in the race with me, so the chat was pretty entertaining. But yeah, I was happy to get a top 10. That was needed because, oh man, I was mad the first half of that race, but it panned out. Oh, I don't know yet. I've got a couple things. We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get into the upcoming weekend. So I'm gonna move us into our topic intro here and talk about the three preset topics we set up going into this week. And I will start with the first one, which is pretty obvious given the way this week went. Should the rest of the field be worried about Kyle Busch? And why would your answer not be yes? I I'll tell you, I think Kyle Busch is my pick to win in Las Vegas. I think second race out with that team, if anybody doubted his ability to get into any car and win, you better watch out. I think that team could go rattle off some wins this year. Randall Burdett. I hope I'm saying that right. Either way, he was with Reddick last year, and that was a fast car. That 8 car was fast all last year. They had a few situations where they should have won. They should have won Auto Club last year. If it weren't for a cut tire in that race, they would have. So to see the 8 car show up with Kyle Busch in it and win there, that didn't surprise me at all. Yeah, right. That's funny. there's a lot of times you can't broadcast Kyle's radio on TV because, man, yeah, it's always fascinated me that the guy that drives the M&Ms and candy car that kids instantly gravitate to is the worst person you want your kid listening to on a scanner. Yeah, it is. It is rated R, but you know, Kyle gets quiet when he's winning. He doesn't have a lot to say. Well, I said at the first time we did this, at coming into the clash, that if I'm Austin Dillon, I'm worried. I better start stepping up my game because Grandpa just hired arguably the best active time full time driver in the series right now. If you can't match what your teammates doing, I don't know, man. And he's played the part. He's like, oh, I was going to push Kyle to the win at the 500, and I'm just happy to support my teammate. Yeah, that's going to go away real quick when your teammate's got 5 wins and you got none. So I'm curious to see how Kyle, how that relationship goes. I mean, I think it's no secret that Kyle Busch has been out to race for Kyle Busch. I think he played his role well when he was at JGR, but now that he's in a smaller team where he's not sharing as many resources, I think the data and technology piece, none of that, they're all getting the exact same thing. Denny was talking about that on his podcast this week about how people blame, oh, well, Joe Gibbs was giving Kyle the worst cars, and it's like, what are you talking about? We're just pulling from a pool of cars. There's no like, these are Denny's cars, these are Kyle's cars, these are Martin. It's like, no, we just have chassis, and okay, you're driving this one this week, you're driving this one, and you get what you get. I mean, they're all the same. What you do to the car and setup wise is what makes it yours. So I think the way that conversation kind of went, that's interesting to hear because yeah, Austin Dillon's getting the exact same cars as Kyle Busch. Yeah, yeah, yep. It came before that, I think. Sounds like they made him a pretty lucrative offer um, to stay at JGR, which was not the number he was looking for, and he hedged his bet that he could get more. And when that window closed at JGR, he wound up at RCR for a lot less than what he would have got to stay. Um, but Denny said it, if JGR had paid him what he asked for, that team wouldn't exist anymore. They couldn't afford to continue to operate. So, not after losing Mars as a sponsor. I mean, that killed them. They're done. They had to pay him less, and he got paid even less. Yeah. Well, I guess a lot of people were tearing down Joe Gibbs Racing this week after he won at RCR. Like, see, you guys should have given him more. And it's like, man, I think as soon as those contract negotiations started, he wouldn't come back to JGR. The fact that it took as long as it did to even have anything in play. Like, if they wanted to keep Kyle Busch, it would have been done. It would have been there wouldn't even been a story about it at the start of last year. Also interesting that Denny is in the exact same position right now. he is he's going through the same negotiations. Although it sounds a lot more like Denny's going to stay. He's got it's a lot more consistent that he'll be there. But man, yeah. But neither one of those were his fault. Those were completely situations out of his control that took him out. And I think you know they'll come back. That team, he's gonna be good. That car's won before. Kurt Busch was very competitive in that car the first half of last year. I don't expect any less having Tyler Reddick in there. It's just, I mean, he got caught up in that restart accident, in Fontana, and he got turned to Daytona, which, Daytona is such a crapshoot anyway. So if he can rebound in the next 3-4 races and start putting together some top fives, they're fine. I'm not worried about the 45 car. The 23 car, they better get something going, man. Yeah. Those first 25 laps at Fontana started 18th, drove up to 4th, and even that, they overheated the car. So this was an issue last year at Auto Club with the Toyotas blocking up the grill and plugging it up and overheating the cars. And that happened to 3 or 4 cars in the race last year. So he was the only one that suffered from that, at least immediately. But I don't know. I mean, I think that was kind of a product of being in the back there, running in the mid 15 to 20s. And you could see it. There's all these pictures from that race of the cars that just caked in dirt, and they were tearing up splitters and everything. They were getting sandblasted from all the dust and everything. So yeah. So, but yeah, dust storm. Yeah. But I will say, back to the whole point of this conversation. Yeah, Kyle Busch probably just made my pick for championship 4. I think I think easily 3 more wins before we get to the playoff cutoff by Kyle Busch. I think that's realistic. So, all right, moving into topic number 2. We know we're losing this weekend next year. Do we have to replace it? Do we have to fill that with another race? Is 38 weekends a year? Is that too many races? Right now we have 36-point races, 2 exhibition races with the Clash and the All-Star race. Maybe we just lose a week. Would that be the worst thing to do? And to me, I feel like NASCAR, I was looking back at historic seasons. The first year I watched a season of NASCAR was in 1990. There were 29 races on the schedule. But it wasn't any shorter. There was just more off weekends. They still went from February to November. And we talk all the time about viewer numbers and attendance. Are we oversaturated with the sport? I mean, maybe we reduce the number of weeks. Maybe we reduce the number of races we go back to. And, the IndyCar follows a very similar model. They have, what is it? I think 18, 26, something like that, races a year. They don't start till March or April, and they're done by September. So would that be better? Would a longer off season be better in the sport? Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't think it will. I'm just wondering. Yeah. Yeah. With only a 2-month off season. Yeah. I think it's interesting to see, when you look at the way watching the viewer numbers for a NASCAR season, it starts off. Daytona's always huge viewer numbers, and then it trickles down through the middle of the season, and then mid-season, that summer kind of stretch, you start getting towards the playoffs, and it'll pick up, and then see a pretty good crowd for the championship race. But I guess to me, it's like the off season for this is really 2 months. Most sports, it's a lot longer than that. Football just finished in February. They're not going to start again until August. That's almost 6 months off. Baseball's the same way. Basketball, hockey, you've got much longer off seasons, at least before you start getting into preseason stuff. Would it be better? Would the sport be better to be done by October? Could we have the championship race in middle to late October and then have just a little more time off? I mean, would that, if there's less opportunities to see and watch a race or go to a race, does that make it more appealing to go to one? I mean, I agree. I think it's all about the money, especially the TV deals. They're extremely lucrative. That NASCAR doesn't need a single person to attend a race, and they're going to do just fine off the TV money alone. They don't care if you come to a race. Attending a race only sweetens the pot for the facilities. It sweetens the pot for the purse for the race, but the TV money is what pays the charters, pays for all of this. So, and I mean, billions of dollars. No. And it still was on TV, though, and those advertisers still got their airtime. And I'll tell you, having been in that situation, I went to the race in Las Vegas in 2020 with my dad, and the same thing happened. The Saturday race got rained out, so they moved it to they were going to run it Sunday after the Cup race. And we watched the whole Cup race. That got over, and it was 45 minutes. They were going to start the Xfinity race, and we watched them get the cars on there and everything. We were like, oh, yeah, we're going to stay. We're going to stay. And we sat there for about 20 minutes, and we're like, maybe we should just get out of here. Because it is. I mean, it's a lot to sit through a 3-hour event and then go sit through another hour and a half, 2-hour event. It just, in the day, at night, it got cold. Yeah. If you've ever sat in the stands in a 30-degree race, that race we went to, or I'm sorry, football game we went to on Christmas Eve, it was freezing cold. That was miserable. Yeah. I didn't regret leaving that at all. And the Titans lost, so yeah, no regrets for leaving that. Yeah. 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 Miserable. No thanks. But the flip side of that, can we please make Atlanta a night race? Why you have lights at this track? Why are we sitting in there in the day in July? Nobody wants that. Your second race is in July. Put it at night. Yeah. Well, they did it last year because they didn't have a choice because of the rain. But I think, and really, the race last year started at 4. They just moved it to 6. It's not that much later. I mean, it'll end at night now. That's guaranteed. Yeah. I mean, thank God they had those clouds. But I didn't even go to the Saturday race in Nashville. I just left my camper because it started at noon and it's miserable out there. Like, you have lights on these tracks, man. Use them. And I know they don't get to dictate that. It's usually set by the TV partners when they're going to run these races. But just be nice to not have to deal with that. So here's my my ultimate. Here's my idea. Get rid of the Xfinity series, or turn the Xfinity series into something completely different that does not partner with the Cup series. Only partner the trucks in the Cup series. Make the Xfinity series a dedicated road course series that never partners, or maybe just 2 or 3 weekends a year with the Cup series. Or go back to my idea of shorter regular season, longer off season. Make the Xfinity series a series that runs races during the off season. That their first race of the year is at Phoenix, and their last race of the year is at Daytona. And then in between there, you do wherever. You go back to Phoenix, you go to Tucson Raceway Park, you go to all these, you can go to, I don't know, go to, what's the one? Yeah. God, I can't remember. New Smyrna. Go to New Smyrna and run there. Run like these short tracks like they used to do. They used to run at Hickory in South Boston and, places where the weather's still tolerable. Make it an off-season series that then I don't care so much if the Cup guys come because, well, they're just doing it for fun or whatever. And it's still a driver development series. It's still your B-class series, but it's not. There's more reason to attend that race then because 90% of the time, the only reason people go to the Xfinity race is because they already have tickets for the Cup race and they bought the weekend package. Or, I mean, I've done it before with the kids and stuff. It's a lot cheaper to go to an Xfinity race, so I can take them to, the Saturday race, and we can and gauge their interest in it, But for me, I think you put that back to the trucks. Let the trucks do that. Because I hate, this is just me and my weird NASCAR thing, like what was the Busch Series were the exact same cars as the Cup cars. The only difference was the engine. They had a smaller engine in them. Where the Cup cars ran 8-cylinder, they ran a 6 or 4-cylinder, whatever it was. I mean, they sounded like little hummingbirds running around the track, but it was the same car. Make the Xfinity Series the same car as the Cup car. Let it be that development series, but take horsepower away, take whatever away to make it more competitive. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. Just it drives me nuts that okay, so the Cup car is Camaro, the Xfinity car is Camaro, but they look completely different. Same thing with the Mustangs. They're the same car, but they're completely different. Like why is it like this? It doesn't have to be like this. I did see where they're talking about making the Xfinity cars go to the single lug wheels starting next year. So that'll be interesting. Get off the 5 lug, and I think more than anything, that's simpler for Goodyear. That's one tire package they have to produce. Yeah. So they limited starts. They can't start in any of the playoff races. They can't start in any of the Dash for Cash races. And I think it's 6 starts a year that you can get in the Xfinity Series. If you declare points in the Cup Series, you can only start so many races in the trucks and in the Xfinity Series. Same thing for those guys; they can only move up or down and run so many races. If you're declaring points in the Xfinity Series, you can only run a handful in the Cup Series. So, and I think that helped. Oh yeah, I mean, look who was winning the championships. It was Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. They were winning all the Xfinity Series championships when and that turned away. That turned a lot of viewers away from going to those races because, well, I'm already going to see these guys. Why do we need to see them then? And part of me agrees. Like, it's good to have them, like your younger guys coming up. It's good for them to compete against the top tier guys, but they're not going to get anything if they're there and just winning all the time. So, I think it's a good move. All right, last topic. What upcoming race are you most excited about? For me, it's Nashville because that's the next one I'm probably going to, and I'm excited to see. I think I'm curious to see where we go from here in Nashville. I believe this is the last year of that contract for that track in that event. Um, but I think it's turned out really well. I think it's been a good race the 2 years we've had it. Um, I think nobody expected Nashville Super Speedway to come back as big as it did and put on as good of a show as it did. So I'm excited for that one. Atlanta. I'm really curious to see Atlanta now that we've gotten a year of racing on the mile-and-a-half super speedway. That surface is going to start to wear, and it's going to change. The racing there is going to change. I'm just curious to see how a year of weathering on that track and kind of where it goes. Yep, snooze fest. Snooze fest, sitting in the stands. Yeah, yep. Until it started raining. Yeah. For me, North Wilkesboro, All Star race. I think that's going to be really cool. And I'm not like some hardcore nostalgia. I think that they're they're phasing tickets. It hasn't sold out yet, but you can only buy so many. They're only opening so many tickets at a time as they renovate spaces. So, but it'll sell out. Yeah, you kidding me? Every freaking person who's over the age of 30 who has any concept of NASCAR has been screaming North Wilkesboro since 1996. If you don't go, you don't get to bitch anymore, man. You've been begging for this. Here it is. Yeah. Buick. Yeah. 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 The Kenny Bernstein owned car. Yeah, I remember that car. I remember Earnhardt went in there in '95 after they had converted to expand the pit road where it came all the way around to the backstretch. And then I remember the last race, Jeff Gordon winning. I remember watching that on TV. But yeah, I mean, I'm not like some hardcore nostalgia, like we need to go back to the way it was. But North Wilkesboro, in its own right, is just a cool racetrack. It's it's very unique for a short track. I mean, it literally is built into a hill. So when you're going down the front stretch, you're going downhill into turn one. Uh, it's I forget the exact lengths, but it's a different size. It's just a configuration. I mean, there's a lot of cool things about that racetrack, and there's some history to it. I mean, I think it's going to be cool to see him race there again. I think Sunday night, Sunday night, yeah. But I think it's cool that they did it. Okay, you guys want North Wilkesboro back? Here it is. We got it. We're doing this. We after that Cars Tour race there last year, which I mean, North Wilkesboro was on the chop. It was dead. It's been dead for years. And they tried to bring it back in the early 2000s. They did a couple things there. There was some racing there. Faded away. Came back in the mid 2010, 2011. Faded away. It's been sitting dormant since then. This place is done for. Bring in the wrecking ball. Dale Jr.'s like, let's put it in iRacing. So they go in there, spend a day cleaning the track up, put it in iRacing. All of a sudden, state's putting money into this place, and they're funding everything to rebuild the infrastructure. Cars Tour goes in there. Dale Jr. races at it in Cup Series. They were going to tear that place up. They were going to tear out the asphalt and turn it into a dirt track and do a whole month of dirt racing at North Wilkesboro. And they wound up canceling it because they're like, no, 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 no. All-star race. Keep the surface. We're going to keep the original surface. So, and I just think it's going to be cool. I'm curious to see how it goes. I hope it's worth it. I hope it pays off. I hope it's a good race. Um, Oh, non-road course. Well, road course Coda. I just don't like that racetrack. It's um, non-road course dirt Bristol. Get this enough. Enough with this horrible idea of hey, let's run a dirt race, but we're not going to do a real dirt race. We're going to just pour a bunch of dirt on Bristol. Dumb. Eh. Well, the first one wasn't, but then they're like, let's make it a night race, and we're going to put it on Easter. Dumb. You know what? It rained. It didn't really work out last year. It was on a holiday. Let's do the same thing again. Dumb. If you want to run a dirt race, go to a dirt track. There's hundreds of them, thousands of them in this country that will gladly host a Cup Series event. Go to a real dirt track. Stop with this god awful experiment. But Bristol's dead. I mean, Bristol is not what it used to be, and I don't care that it's not the conveyor belt it used to be. That it doesn't have 36-degree banking. The reason I went to Bristol the first year is because I watched a race after they did the reconfiguration, and they moved into the COT after those first few years. 2011, 2012, I believe it was the race I was watching where Matt Kenseth and Brad Keselowski fought side by side for the lead for an hour and a half, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. I'm going to this race, so I did. I bought tickets to go to the fall race, the night race, and I mean, I think that the reconfigured Bristol puts on a better show. There was more competition in it. Now the new cars made it a little difficult, just because they're still learning that car. But you had multiple lanes. You had a high groove and a bottom groove. I mean, the old 36-degree conveyor belt, and the only way you pass somebody was by bumping them out of the way, and there was a caution every 15 laps. We just watched that in the Clash, and everybody hated it. So all these bring back old Bristol fans, yeah, you don't like it as much as you claim you did. That's not what you really want. You just want Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace to throw things at each other again, and that's not going to happen. So, no, Bristol on its own is a good racetrack when you don't put dirt on it and you put less grip in these cars so they can actually race. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you'd be singing a different tune if your driver was running really well and winning at Bristol. That's the best race of the year. We should go there 10 times. Yeah. All right, so let's move into that. Let's talk about this weekend. The Pennsylvania 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, my former home track, one of my favorites. I'm pretty excited to get back there. I like watching that race. I think that track, since they did the reconfiguration in 2007, it's aged well. It's a cool racetrack. Looked at the odds earlier this week, and I think my shoe-in is going to be Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch goes back to back. Yeah, that it's hard not to take a Kyle Busch with momentum going into a racetrack that he knows well. But look at some of the numbers of active drivers right now. Joey Logano has the most wins with 3. Won this race last fall. Can't count him out. Ross Chastain finished 2nd and 3rd in the 2 races here last year. Has an Xfinity Series win there. Other drivers that are current active drivers, Kevin Harvick's got 2 wins. Truex Jr.'s got 2. Keselowski 2. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman all with 1. So looking at that list, I mean, it's hard to count out Logano. I think he's got something figured out at this place. But in the races I've been to there over the last few years, Alex Bowman has run really well. Chase Elliott's run really well. So there's a lot of names thrown around there. So here's my shoe-in is Kyle Busch. My dark horse, and people can throw all the stones they want at me for this. I got my $10 gift MGM bet from BetMGM this week. I'm putting it on Bubba Wallace, 33-1, and I'll tell you why. That Las Vegas and Kansas are extremely similar racetracks in the way they race. The surface is a little different. Las Vegas was repaved in 2007, Kansas in 2011, but they race very similar. Bubba Wallace was going to win the spring race at Kansas had they not had a shit pit stop. They were the fastest car in the last segment of that race. They won Kansas in the fall. They went to Las Vegas, won stage 1, and were a top 5. Were going to be good in that race. Had that whole Kyle Larson alleged. No, it wasn't alleged. That was an intentional dump. I'm sorry. You don't turn people in the right rear. You got that 17 car that turned me in the right rear twice at Auto Club. You don't do that to people. That was a shit situation last year at Las Vegas, and I'm not going to try to defend him. I think it was wrong. I think he made the wrong move, but I think that team had one of the most improved seasons overall, especially on mile-and-a-half racetracks last year. They ran the gauntlet at Nashville when they showed up there, and that was the turning point. In that practice session in Nashville, they were the fastest overall, the fastest 5-lap average, 10-lap average, 20-lap average. They showed up, and everybody's like, what the hell? Now they blew it in qualifying, issues in the race, still finished 9th. Over the last half, starting at Nashville, last half of the season, they had an average finish of 13th. I'm going to put money on that. I mean, I don't know that it's a guarantee that he's going to win, but I think that team has more speed than anybody's willing to admit, and it could make $330 off of it. So I'm going to run with scissors on that. Now, I won't be surprised when Kyle Busch wins, and I'll be like, I lost a $10 courtesy bet that I didn't pay any money for. So, but that's my dark horse pick. I think Chastain, Bowman, Logano, and Chase Elliott would be the ones to watch. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. I'd agree. I'm curious to see. Blaney's your pick. All right. Well, I'm gonna ride on Kyle Busch, and we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have Blaney on my list, and I probably should. I think he's done better at Las Vegas than I even realized. But yeah, I think I'll stick with Kyle. I'm gonna see where that takes me, and I'm gonna have my dark horse Bubba bet because if I win money, you guys better watch out. I'm gonna be parading that around. I'm gonna be waving flags behind me here next week. Like I told you, y'all doubted him. Y'all, everybody says most hated driver in the sport. Yeah, what are you gonna say now? You can hate him all you want. He just made me $330. Oh no, I I could do an entire hour where we could talk about nothing else, and I could have one topic and say like, why do you hate Bubba Wallace? This chat would be going nuts. I mean, because he is. It's people, and to the point that I don't even understand it at sometimes. I mean, I get there's been things. There's been a lot of things that people don't agree with of him as a driver. I mean, the whole Las Vegas incident last fall did not bode well for him. And I agree. I think that was a shit move. Shouldn't have happened. But, at the same time, I started backing him as my horse way back when he was running K&N cars. When he moved into the trucks, I was all about that guy. So, I mean, there's things I don't agree with from a lot of the fans and their opinions of it. But, a lot of the same thing could be said about a lot of other drivers. They just don't want to admit it. Everybody wanted, why wasn't he arrested? He used his car as a weapon. I'm like, okay, before you want to start down that bullshit argument, go watch any race at Bowman Gray Stadium where dudes are literally driving across the football field to ram into the guy that wrecked them. They pack that place and cheer for it. So don't tell me, oh, you're using your cars as weapons when you support it everywhere else. It's just the guy that you don't like that's doing it. And if you want to go, yeah, look at 2011 Darlington, Kyle Busch right reared and hooked Kevin Harvick going down the front stretch. Nobody called for him to get arrested. Where was that? Oh no, it's just because you don't like the black guy. Call it what it is. But whatever. I mean, the Columbia paint schemes have been pretty good. I will say. I thought the McDonald's scheme they had at Daytona was horrible. I was like, where's the rest of it? It looks like you half painted the car. Like where's and I thought like is more going to come? Like, are they going to just add things to it throughout the week? Like, that'd be cool, but no. And I was like, well, this is like you half wrapped it. Hey, what a great segue into let's do a paint scheme preview of my car that I'm going to run this weekend at Las Vegas. There it is. This is the standard proof dark car, the standard paint scheme that I'll be running for a majority of races this season. So, taking basically the same paint scheme that we ran in the Daytona 500, but without all the color and a lot of the reflective surfaces and the flare that's in it. It's a little more toned down and basic. Still going to run that car at a few races. I'll run it at Nashville, run it at COTA, a few different places. But this was the just kind of toned down version of that. Plus, I think kind of where the striping is as we go into some of the other races through the seasons. Can change the colors for that for different brands of the house blend whiskey they make. So if you don't know what Standard Proof is, they are actually a local distillery. They make all their own infused whiskey here right in Nashville. They're a local company. They don't officially sponsor me, but I officially sponsor them, or unofficially or whatever. They definitely sponsor my glass. But really cool spot. They've got their own little whiskey bar downtown. Just love that place. All the people there are cool. Their social media is super cool. So, yeah, why not support a local company? That's why I put them on my car. It's fun to advertise for them for free. So that's why I run it. But man, so I think we're it's about to wrap it up. I think that was we've been here for an hour talking all things NASCAR. Yep. Yep. I'll have the yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll be unfortunately I'll be listening to the race on Sirius XM. I'll be driving to Washington D.C. on Sunday, so probably won't be able to join in any streams. On that note, I don't know that I'll have a live show next week, just because we'll be doing all things DC to review Las Vegas and start talking about Phoenix. Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, I'll be racing in the NASCAR iRacing Series at Las Vegas. So hop right back here on this channel. You'll be able to join in the live stream for that. We can talk all things racing. Uh, yeah, looking forward to that race. I've got a couple wins at Las Vegas actually in the truck, in the Xfinity car. So home track, somewhere I run really well. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun to have see how that goes. So yeah, come back on Friday. We'll talk about it some more. We'll talk a little more about your picks. Of course, the truck race will probably be going on at the same time we're racing on the sim, but we could talk about that as you're going. Easiest way for me to get updates is from people right here in the chat talking about what's happening in the race, because I can't see it. I'm too busy running my own race, but looking forward to it. So good deal. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in and talking about us, talking with us through another week. Looking forward to this week. Phoenix, I don't get excited about Phoenix, but I think it'll be good. I'm excited. After Phoenix, we go to Atlanta. I may try to go to that race. I still haven't decided. Um, kind of want to fly the airplane down and go spend the day at the race, but airplane's sitting in the hangar right now because dead battery. Had to order a new battery today, so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel so I can get that YouTube funding coming in, because I got to. You have any idea how much airplane batteries cost? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing about this, is to have everybody joining us in the chat and kind of help drive this conversation. It's good, obviously, we get to have our own debate between the two of us, but I think more people talking in the chat just helps us, really drive these conversations. And I think he means first. It says fist, but Joe's probably had a couple of whiskeys himself. I'd be disappointed if he hadn't. Yeah, Joe's been a Logano fan for as long as I've known him. He picked that as his horse his rookie year, back when he was driving for Gibbs, and that's just been his guy. So, I mean, I'd fault him for it, but what are you going to do? Everybody's got their guy, I guess. Some people even like Kyle Busch. Some people might actually like Ty Gibbs. There's a lot of sickos out there, man. All right. Yeah. So, hey, quick shout out before we go. MyPilotPro, there's a link down here in the description. That's where you can get all your custom GoPro or any really action camera mounts. Again, they've been a long-time supporter of mine. I'm happy to support them and kind of just help push their stuff out there. It's really cool. I use those for all of my aviation content. I've got specific mounts they build for aviation that I use on my airplane for all of my aviation content and filming. Obviously, they do a lot of marine and outdoor stuff. So, if you got a boat, if you're doing hunting, anything like that, they've got all kinds of cool mounts for different things for that. Go check them out. Browse through their catalog. Maybe you'll find something that works for exactly what you're trying to do. Be back here Friday night, running at Las Vegas. Hope to see you guys there. We'll talk more about that. If we get a live show together next week, we'll certainly do it. CeeLo, appreciate you joining us. We'll talk again next week or Friday. Yeah, let's go. Come join us in some races. It'll be fun. See ya.